It never fails that anytime I talk about my eating disorder or all the things I used to do to lose weight, at least one person will pop their head out of the ground just to say, you know, you can lose weight in a healthy way. It doesn't need to be so extreme. And I don't know how else to explain that for me and for many, many other people, that is simply untrue. Because the second I start ignoring my body's cues, it's over. The instant my body tells me it is hungry and I choose either not to feed it or to underfeed it, which is what a calorie deficit is, it knows it's time for famine. It goes into scarcity mode. It thinks I don't have access to food, and as a result, my body turns on all the alarms to try to get me to eat as much as humanly possible so that I can survive this famine. And I want you to imagine what it's actually like to go through your day with your body screaming at you that it's starving, and you just have to pretend that that's not happening. It's consuming all of your thought space and all of your energy, but you just have to pretend it's not real. There is no way to casually pursue weight loss when you're in that state. The behaviors have to be extreme because it's an extreme situation. So when people talk about how weight loss is not an option for them or weight loss is harmful for them, just believe them. Just take them at their word.
Me eating an unhealthy meal because I'm allowed to enjoy the same food as anyone else.
I can always identify someone who doesn't have a great grasp on history if they see medicalization as a stamp of inherent virtue. This comes up a lot when I talk about how the word obese is a slur. At least one person will always pop their head out of the ground to say, obese is a medical term, as if that somehow makes it better. You know what else used to be a medical term? Like a lot of bad shit we don't say anymore, because we realized it was stigmatizing as fuck and it actively harmed people. You can Google them, I'm not going to say them here. Science and language are both constantly evolving and updating. The medical establishment is not exempt from this. If anything, it's actually a particularly strong example of how this happens. We don't need to look too far back into history at all to see how medical terminology and practices change. For example, homosexuality is no longer diagnosed as a mental illness. Female hysteria is not something that's diagnosed anymore. Cocaine and heroin are no longer prescribed as anesthetics or cough suppressants. Lysol cleaning spray is no longer used as a douche. We don't perform ice pick lobotomies anymore. And doctors no longer advocate for the health benefits of smoking cigarettes. Oops. More importantly, when a marginalized group tells you that a word or practice harms them, you can just go ahead and believe them. I'm truly loving how the fat acceptance movement allows people to grow, because it's not only teaching people that health and body size are not direct corollaries, which is true, but also the bigger point, which is that health is not a requirement for people to be deserving of respect or equality. We hear this issue come up all the time in conversations around fatness where people say things like, well, so long as you're healthy, which is basically to say that if a fat person does not have the privilege of health, then they deserve abuse and discrimination, whereas I, as a healthy fat person, don't, which is just nonsense. Understanding this is important because it's extremely tempting in the face of prejudice to cling to the health that we experience and try to present it as a representation of our moral value in an attempt to try to alleviate some of the pain that fat phobia brings. But when we do that, we are unintentionally, or sometimes intentionally, taking fat people who do not experience health and throwing them under the bus.
What I eat in a day as a fat person not focused on weight loss. Mini corn dogs. Granola with blueberries, raspberries, and milk. Some ice cream pie. Lentils with rice salsa and avocado. Pan-seared tofu with vegan fish sauce, soy sauce, and sriracha. Serve that baby with rice noodles and broccoli. Love you, bye. Travel might look a little different for us plus-size folks, but it's still possible. The airlines should do a better job accommodating us, but until then, I'll keep shouting my message from the rooftops. You deserve to travel just as much as anyone else.
Bro, this shit fucking hurt. It always hurts me when I see a black person being fat phobic. It just crushes me, especially because one of the origins of fat phobia was literally racism. Prior to the Atlantic slave trade, Europeans actually found plushy, chubby to fat women extremely desirable and as a sign of health, whereas people who were thinner were sick and weird, specifically ugly. But during the Atlantic slave trade, many Europeans realized that many African enslaved folk shared similar proportionate chubby to fat sizes that they considered desirable, specifically black women. So in a desperate attempt to essentially perpetuate racial inferiority, they decided to just switch up the whole narrative and use science to back it up. This is what I mean when I say it's never been about health. Also, I'm reading this book called Fearing the Black Body, where Sabrina Strings goes into detail about this, using multiple historical references. It's really good. I beg, please stop with the fat phobia.
Okay, wait, keep up with this. The thin people that hate fat people don't hate fat people because they're fat. They hate them because every time they see a fat person that is simultaneously happy, it invalidates their entire experience of being thin and being afraid of being fat.